Let's go ahead and get started here. By the way, I'm Brian Lusk. Thank you for joining me. And this is another Commuter live stream. I'm heading home from Omaha, and I hope you guys can hear me all right. I got the microphone sitting right here on my the temple of my glasses.
In a quarter mile, merge onto I-29 South.
And yes, I've still got the GPS going here. But just a reminder that the format on this one is less formal. I mean, I'm not going to be able to put up sources and things like that. This is basically me talking about what I remember from the various news stories I have been tracking for the last about week or so. And we can kind of talk about it. And feel free to comment as well. I am paying attention. There's a better than 50-50 chance that I'm currently sideways. And that's okay. Let me know if that's the case. I don't know that I can do anything. But, just let me know. So, news items that have been coming out this week. One of the big news items that came out early, in fact, I think it was just last week, President Zelensky actually reported that the Ukrainians captured 2 North Korean soldiers alive and were in the process of interrogating them. Kind of interesting to see that I actually pulled it off. To be honest, I expected them all to voluntarily remove themselves from the gene pool rather than be captured. It says that my orientation is locked. I don't think that's going to work for me, but I'll try it. Hold on. There we go. If that works out better, awesome. Hi, Robbie. Glad to see you. No problem. Just enjoy your trip to work, and we'll stick around for a little bit. Again, this is just kind of a less formal format. I feel like I ought to be telling ghost stories, just because the lighting is so bad at this time of night as I'm driving. But Zelensky reported they had 2 North Korean soldiers actually in custody. They did, over the last couple of weeks, publish a diary that they had from one of the soldiers who voluntarily removed himself from the gene pool, and it was really interesting. Apparently, he committed something horrendous, and was thought that this coming to Ukraine might help him get back in good graces with Kim Jong-un. But this is still in progress, and I imagine that the South Koreans are probably sending some people to assist with it. So interesting to see, if nothing else. Glad to have you here. I think that's Bells. I think it is. The text is small and I can't spend a whole lot of time reading, but glad to have you here as well. But it's an interesting little bit that they captured a couple alive. We'll have to keep an eye on that as well. As far as news, this is an interesting one I remember. If you go back about a week actually, I think it was, and check, there was a Wagner soldier who crossed the southern border into the United States, illegally, obviously, and he was captured with $4,000 and a drone in his backpack. Very interesting. And my first thought was, how many Wagner soldiers have managed to get into the country without us knowing about it? So that's something to keep an eye out on. There has been some updates on that one. In fact, I think the contents of his pack were the updates, as I recall. But the man had been working with Wagner as recently as a few months ago. So there's no reason to believe that he isn't still a Wagner soldier. Just kind of a weird one, you might say. Moving over to the U.S. Capitol, you may be already expecting the inauguration of Donald Trump on the 20th. That'll be Monday. And that event has been moved indoors. And this is after a really unprecedented level of requests for, I might even say, alternate security and alternate arrangements compared to what they would normally have. There was a request to the VA hospital to provide, I think it was a few thousand. Interesting to see, by the way, I am kind of in the wilds of Missouri right now, so the connection may be a little bit flaky, and thus expected to kind of cut in and out every once in a while. The otherwise, of the inauguration, by the way, for President Trump, has been moved indoors. Originally, they were going to do it, the main event, outside, but they claim that due to extreme cold, they're no longer going to do it outside. They're going to do a smaller event inside. Not sure what to think about it in context of the rest of the things going on around the inauguration, but yeah, let's just keep an eye on that one for now. The TikTok ban is due to come to start on Sunday, but the word on the street is that the Biden administration has no intentions of actually carrying it out, or at least not enforcing it. The entertaining thing is that all the people who have been, well, not all of them, but a significant portion of the people who have been very much concerned about TikTok being banned started signing up for a different Chinese Communist Party app called Red Note. Now, Red Note, if you actually run through various permutations of the translations, eventually comes back to Red Book, as in Mao's Little Red Book, which you can do all the research you'd like on, and it's interesting to say the least. It's basically their communist manifesto. So they've been moving over, and what they've been finding is that all the people on there speak Mandarin Chinese, not English. And therefore, some people are going so far as to try to learn Mandarin Chinese in order to be able to use and interact with this Red Note app. One of the people who got onto Red Note was Nick Fuentes, who is a political commentator of some type, I will say. Somebody I follow, but he certainly has been vociferous in his opposition to Ukraine and a variety of other things. Kind of, in my opinion, he kind of chases whatever the topic of the day is rather than necessarily having a set of principles, in my opinion. But he signed up for Red Note, and he posted on Twitter that he'd already been banned. That didn't take them long. Robbie, I absolutely agree that a security threat is more likely than cold weather to cause that change of venue for the inauguration. There will be, there is plenty of support for Donald Trump, and including amongst people that watch these streams. So I totally expect that there will be many disappointed people who didn't get to see the inauguration itself happen in person. Still, interesting to keep an eye on. My gut feel is that they're more concerned with security threats than they are with the weather. Just my opinion. Where was I? Let's see. Nick Fuentes. Yeah, okay. So the TikTok ban may be carried out soon, but the thought was, since I think it was the Trump administration originally proposed the TikTok ban, at least as a talking point, that Trump would start doing the TikTok ban. But Trump has been seen in the presence of the CEO of TikTok, and said individual has been talking with Trump a lot. So take your pick on whether you think there's going to be any changes or not, or whether the ban is going to continue or be enforced. The courts did find that the ban is legal, and the ban of TikTok has been a hot topic of conversation. Now, I have not got, at least at this point in time, I do not have a position on the banning of TikTok. My position, however, is that you probably shouldn't be getting on apps that are controlled by dictatorial regimes. And I'm not just referring to the CCP. Then, of course, even worse, getting on a different app that's even more restricted, that's also controlled by the CCP, when your preferred CCP app is banned from you. Just my thought process on that. Moving back across the pond for a moment or two, over in the Baltic Sea, there have been a series of warships now patrolling the vital infrastructure undersea cables there, including a couple of NATO warships. And it seems that the Russian Shadow Fleet is getting a lot more attention than they were getting just a short time ago. In fact, the Eagle S has been impounded. That's the one that actually they caught basically red-handed dragging it. Eagle S has been moved to a proper impound, and it's the legalese is a little bit confusing, but right now they're basically saying the ship can't leave because it's not seaworthy. And that's probably true. There's no reason the Russians would actually put any time or money into maintenance. They certainly don't in their regular equipment. Moving south a little bit here, you may remember that Robert Fico, and I have side note here, I have looked at that name many times, and I've always pronounced it Fico. And I finally broke down and did some research, and it sounds more like Fico. I'm sure I'm still butchering the pronunciation, but that is closer to its actual intended pronunciation than what I've been doing in the past. Anyway, so Robert Fico, the Prime Minister of Slovakia, disappeared off into Moscow for a bit, and then turned up in a very expensive hotel for a little bit as well, and then came back. As I understand, he's back in Slovakia, and he invited President Zelensky to come and meet him at a very specific town on the border between Slovakia and Ukraine, and to come using a very specific train line at a very specific time and day. Now, tell me if this man who's just been to Moscow gives you an exact date and time, and, well, I don't know if it was quite so exact date and time, but gives you basically a day and says, take this train to this place, do you really think that sounds like it's going to be a legit thing, or do you think it sounds more like an assassination attempt in the offing? I know which one I think it is, but you tell me your opinion on this. And Zelensky turned around and said, no, you come to Kyiv and we'll talk. And I don't remember his name. He's another government official for Slovakia who happened to be in Moscow, put out a statement stating that Fico would not be coming to Kyiv. It was a very insulting statement, by the way, calling Zelensky a grifter and beggar and things like this. It's just entertaining stuff. But either way, it's pretty clear that Slovakia, at least its prime minister, is intending to find a way to get Russian gas transit back running again, because on its surface, that appears to be the intended topic that they're going to be addressing. Hi, Al, glad to have you on board. Continue working and lurking. This is the informal Talking the News here, where I don't have any notes or anything. I'm going entirely off of memory. So buckle up. It's going to be entertaining. There will be inaccuracies, and there will be stuff I don't remember. This is just talking things over from the old noggin here, and kind of giving some thoughts on them. Moving over to Moldova and Transnistria, I think I talked about this in my last live stream, but I don't remember for sure. Russia has cut off gas to Transnistria, stating out of the blue that Transnistria owes them a huge sum of money for all the gas that they've been pumped so far. See, up until now, and I had to kind of got some additional details, But up until now, Russia has been providing gas to Transnistria effectively for free. They didn't have any kind of they weren't charging at a regular rate or anything like that. And then once Ukraine cut off the gas transit through Ukraine to Europe, all of a sudden, Putin's like, oh, no, Transnistria, you owe us money for this. But let's be clear, Transnistria doesn't owe us money. Moldova owes us money. And Moldova's like, time out. No, that's not how this works. We have no need for Russian gas. We can get gas from Europe. In fact, Transnistria, if you look over here, you'll see that we can get you this beautiful European gas. Now, there have been, of course, the Russians kind of went insane over that, and I believe it was the Slovakian, that other deputy that put out the statement. It was like, the gas that they're providing to the European Union is all Russian gas, just rebadged and relabeled. So, you're just basically upcharging for the same gas. And entertaining. You can take that for whatever you'd like. I'm not going to make the call one way or another. But but Moldova said, hey, look, we will totally arrange to have gas provided to you from the European Union, and you don't have to worry about the Russian gas until this is all over. And the Transnistrian leadership says, no, we're just going to wait for Gazprom to turn it back on. So the Transnistrians continue to languish in the freezing cold. All because somebody doesn't want to play, it's all because somebody wants to play politics with their gas. And I'm not talking Ukraine, I'm talking trans. For a moment or two, Israel and Hamas have been, I'm going to put it to this way, encouraged to the negotiating table. And the word is that there was a deal struck and the deal's details continue to be, shall we say, murky. All I know is that the Biden administration was involved, a Trump administration, incoming administration official was involved, and the details get kind of shaky from there. But the Israelis will release 1,000 prisoners in exchange for 33 hostages. Now, this does not sound a whole lot like Donald Trump's promise of all hell being breaking loose on Hamas if they didn't turn over the hostages. But that's just my opinion at this point. The rest of the details get really murky. Some sources say that that Israel's supposed to back off of Hamas, and the U.S. is going to rebuild Gaza. The fact is, the rebuilding of Gaza seems to be a common theme, and that does not sound like a good investment, if you ask me, considering what they've done with all the UN relief and works assistance that they have received over the decades. There's a reason why there's a bunch of homemade rockets that were launched in Israel all the time. Hi, Ozzy. Glad to see you there. Always happy to have you aboard. Now, then there was rumors, because I only caught it just a little bit offhand, was that the talks had broken down because Hamas, who had originally agreed to the deal, turned around and said, no, we want more. I don't know that that's going to work out for them like they think it will, because the Trump administration, in just today's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 3 days, are going to be in charge. Now, Donald Trump has said that he wants to cut a deal on this pretty darn fast. That could work in Hamas's benefit. I know that that they've been putting pressure. The administration in the U.S. has been putting pressure on Israel. Or it might not work out for Hamas. Definitely be unpredictable. Information hearings on Capitol Hill have been going pretty darn well for the Trump appointees. By and large, they have been well prepared for the questions. There have been some shaky points, but the Democrats in their questioning have managed to look pretty darn unhinged and have managed to also kind of have a very tenuous relationship with both facts and logic. However, this is basically a job interview. If you can't even make your way through the job interview, you weren't going to get the job anyway. And to put it bluntly, if they can't fake it for this interview well enough to get through, then they won't be able to do the job at all. That said, what they say in these hearings may or may not be their actual positions. I think the best one I've seen so far has been Besant, whose name I don't recall. He's, I believe, going to be the Treasury Secretary, if I remember. Don't hold me to that again. This is all from off the top of the noggin, and as you can see, there's a lot of noggin to get off the top of up here. Besant is something financial, and I think it's Treasury. Has been literally hitting every question out of the park. So when one of the senators said, "Did you read this paper I gave you?" He said, Besant said, "Yes, I did. And for the benefit of my children behind me, I just want to add that it's important to do your homework." So overall, it appears that the preparation for these have been pretty well. Pete Hegseth over at Department of Defense might not have been as well prepared as some of the others, but it all depends on what you think of Pete Hegseth in the first place. I don't think these hearings are going to make any major change in who supports and who doesn't that particular nominee. So that's going on right there. The wildfires in California, as you already know, there's been a lot of things going on there. I do not know their current status. I don't know how contained they are or if they're even out. I do know, however, that there's been a lot of recriminations about what's going on there. The Newsom has basically been challenging Donald Trump to come and visit the disaster area, and he seems to forget that Donald Trump is not the president yet. That doesn't mean Trump will or won't. I don't. But at this point, they're just days from the inauguration, and so we'll have to find out what happens then. A lot of accusations of a DEI causing problems. However, when you really start digging in, it really appears that at least the fire department staff has very much been vocal about being understaffed. And it appears that they are understaffed and under-equipped with a $17 million budget cut. Now, other people have said, well, we increased the budget by $50 million, and I have not seen any evidence of that one way or the other. The other thing that started coming up is the reservoir. The Santa Ynez Reservoir was empty, and a lot of people were making hay about that. However, it was closed for maintenance, and depending on its status, some people have been saying, well, surely you could just fill it real fast. Since you knew that these conditions were coming, you could have started a couple weeks before and filled it up. Don't think you understand how maintenance works. But I am no geologist or geological scientist. I am not a public works professional. But I am an IT guy. And if there's one thing I know, it's if you take something down for maintenance and then you try to bring it online without doing the proper steps to get it back out of maintenance, you usually end up with a vegetable. And not a tasty vegetable, one of those slimy, starting to rot vegetables that was boiled too long and turned into a soggy yutch. So I can't speak one way or another whether a reservoir is subject to the same issues, but I'm not sure that we can put that particular item on the government at this point in time. We can absolutely put the shortfall of budget and the understaffing on the government. We can put the response from the California state government on that, absolutely. And we can also have plenty of robust debate about FEMA's role in this, because they have promised 100% coverage, but they didn't promise the same thing to North Carolina after Helene. So, yeah, I am not fond of the implications of the situation, and it starts looking awfully political. So my statement on that ends up being, if you are going to be a politician or work in government as an employee, serve all the people of America. Don't serve some people. Don't restrict the access to just the people you like, or the people that think like you, or look like you, or sound like you. Help all the people. Now, I'm not convinced that, let me put it this way. I suspect that red tape that is being allowed to remain in North Carolina is being cut away for the people in California. I do not have proof of that. That is just a suspicion. But it certainly feels that way. So that's my thoughts on it. And I think that our public servants need to remember that there is a servant part of that as well. Ozzy says he grew up in bushfire country, lived through what I called an Ash Wednesday, big fires, many dead. That's pretty scary, all right. And, I am very blessed to have never had a significant fire affect me. In fact, I've never really experienced that type of loss. Though some of my family has, not my family, but like my extended family. So I at least have a vague understanding of it. My heart does go out to the people in California and the people in North Carolina, and even to the people in Florida who had the amazing response by the Florida government to taking care of business and getting things done through 2 hurricanes, and all FEMA had to do was show up and write the checks. So the quality, and this comes back to the old statement, your life is far more affected by people in your local school district, your city mayor, your governor, your state reps, your state senate, your local dog catcher, your city hall, your school board. Your life is far more affected by those people than it will ever be by the people in Washington, D.C., whether they're elected from your state or there as an employee or whatever. So definitely pay attention to what's going on in your local and state far more than you do. And that's kind of the top level stuff that I can think of off the top of my head. A lot of people right now and are up in arms constantly, whether it's from having their favorite social media taken from them or horrific death and destruction. The thing that we always forget is that we know about certain parts of this, but there's genocides happening in Africa, religious persecution and the like, and probably even genocides happening in Africa. And there's Uyghur Muslims being oppressed in China, and there's women being oppressed by the Taliban in Afghanistan and by the Iranian government in Iran. There is plenty of evil in the world to be chased and faced, and fun and be able to comment with with any authority is not the right word, but knowledge of. Well, even Ukraine, which I've done a tremendous amount of research, if I have to dig in, I need to spend hours. So if I really want to get in and get the details, for instance, near Pokrovsk, the Russians have managed to cut a fairly significant roadway that leads to the town, and they're in process of potentially encircling it. Just cutting that one roadway will make it harder for the Ukrainians to get supplies into that area, and they may, the strategic thinkers are actually doing the right things to prosecute a war. Sorry about that. I saw my connection moment. I got word that there was a Chinese company that was buying up distressed Russian companies. In fact, from the I'm hearing, there's more of that going on than meets the eye. In this case, it was a Russian coal producer, and they're buying up this distressed company at bargain basement prices. So Russia may quickly find themselves in the position of having to say yes, master, to China, rather than being the senior partner in that relationship. And in fact, I would contend they already are the junior partner, with Vladimir Putin having to come hat in hand with the CCP in North Korea and Iran to be able to continue to prosecute this war. The economy in Russia is showing some serious signs of trouble, and it's something to keep an eye on. I don't have the financial background to speak on it in depth. I do track some people who do know more than I do on that, so that's good to be keeping track of. I'm not going to get into the prediction game, but it is my opinion that Russia is going to quickly become motivated to pause this war, not because they want to, but because if they don't, there won't be enough pieces to go around to keep things going. It's just crazy. Even China's economy is in a bit of trouble right now. I've seen some pretty big financial heads call it a recession and even a depression, with China's growth falling off a cliff. Boom. So that's something to keep in mind. Domestically, the U.S. has got an enormous national debt. We also have an enormous GDP. But we got to get over our spending habits and actually start budgeting properly. Otherwise, we won't have a nation to actually keep up with. I don't know that China's going to have the money to buy us out, though, which is one of the things that people laugh about. No, I don't laugh about that at all. The other thing that I'm seeing more rumbling on, and I think I'll make this my last item today. People are calling for Europe to not rely on the United States, saying that the United States is now unreliable as an international partner. A lot of this stems from the material about Greenland, with Donald Trump pressuring Denmark to give up their claim on Greenland. Greenland is prepared to become their own nation, but they've only got about 56,000 people on that island, is my understanding. How long would they really be able to hold out if somebody was determined to take them? And what are the chances that it's going to be the U.S. being the one that wants to take them? We need to work our diplomacy, though. Diplomacy is the much more valuable art of war than people give it credit for. Anyway, so people are encouraging Europe to stand up, to not rely on the United States, to start taking their future into their own hands. And I'm all on board with that. I think Europe needs to get their armies together. They need to get their armaments production in shape. They need to start getting their own security taken care of. They need to seize the day. They need to kick Russia out. And if they do so, the United States will lose nearly all of its influence over the European Union. And at last, they can finally say, we don't need the United States anymore. But do they really want to do that? Always a question that comes up is, do they really want to? And it's a matter of political will. If they are willing to put in that time, put in that effort, put in those resources, put in that money, they will be stronger as a union because of it. But if they are not, then soon they will be finding themselves with no Europe to call their own anymore. And that's everything for tonight. Thank you all for joining me. I know this is kind of just out of the blue. I enjoy doing these lives, and I'm glad that you guys another 4, I think it is, before I get another day off. I've been busy. So even on the few moments I've had off in the meantime, there will be, when things, I hate to say this, but I hope things settle down soon so we can get into a routine. I'm not convinced they will, because for some reason it seems like life is really determined to keep me busy right now. So thank you all very much. You have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you on the next either Commuter Live or regular live stream. Bye.